Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you here to CRC's presentation tonight, offered in English by Celeste Gunta from the Napa Valley COAD. This evening, we'll be recording this in English, and then a webinar later on we will be hosting at 7 o'clock in Spanish. And we want to thank you for being here this evening. Let's see if I can choose. Here we go. We're going to talk about, we're inviting you to get a pen and paper out and listen and learn a few simple steps here. And Celeste, I'm going to turn it over to you and invite you. Whoops, there we go. Let me stop screen share. We're going to invite you to share your screen.
Okay, so I'm going to first get started by introducing myself again. I'm Celeste Junta, and I'm the director at Community Organizations Active in Disaster, which is kind of a mouthful, so we say COAD to simplify it. And I've been in this role for a little over 2 years. So at the beginning of the presentation, I'm going to share just a little bit about COAD so you know who we are and what we do. And then we'll jump into the preparedness presentation, which is derived from the LISTOS program that the state of California put together last year, but we've updated it to include a lot of our COAD materials that are complementary to the program. And so those materials, if you'd like to get copies of them after the meeting, we can send you some of those flyers through CRC. So it should work really well. So to get started, I'm going to start sharing my screen. It sounds as though we have. And to go through the presentation. So as I mentioned, this presentation is derived from the LISTOS presentation, and we have quite a few partners in terms of this program, On the Move, Up Valley, COAD, and then a couple of organizations in Sonoma County, Catholic Charities, and Cal OES, which is California Office of Emergency Services. And one of the things COAD does is we work a lot with our local County Office of Emergency Services. They're a critical partner with us, and we try to make sure that our work complements their work. So I'm going to just introduce a little bit about COAD, and then we'll jump into the presentation. So COAD's mission statement is pretty simple, but it's another mouthful. We develop and enhance partnerships for communication, coordination, and collaboration amongst the whole community, including nonprofits and faith-based organizations, government agencies, and the private sector during all phases of disaster. And all phases of disaster includes preparedness, response, as well as long-term recovery. So currently, COAD is involved in 3 different major areas. Preparedness is, and that's what part of this presentation is about, is helping the community prepare for future disasters, as well as a program that we have called Map Your Neighborhood, where we're helping neighborhoods organize so that they can become more connected, because we've learned that one of the key aspects of surviving and recovering from a disaster is how connected you are to other people in your community, that is a better predictor of you recovering successfully from a disaster. So social cohesion and connection is really important. And that's part of our Map Your Neighborhood program, which I'll talk a little bit more later in the presentation. And that's part of our whole preparedness group. Then we also have a group of response subcommittees that have been very active since the beginning of COVID-19, as well as for the 2 2020 wildfires. And those committees are very active. We have many of our local nonprofits involved in them. As a matter of fact, our child care subcommittee was led by Community Resources for Children. So Elaine was definitely a huge part of that, and she led a lot of those coordinated efforts with other agencies through COAD. We also have Animal Welfare Subcommittee. We have a subcommittee that supports individuals with disabilities called our Access and Functional Needs and Older Adults Subcommittee. We have another subcommittee that focuses on food access and insecurity, another that focuses on emergency financial assistance, and On the Move and Up Valley are very core to that subcommittee. We also have a mental and spiritual health subcommittee that has been helping people. And right now, as we're looking at the wildfire recovery and heading into the 1-year anniversaries of those fires, we're finding that getting a lot more requests for mental health support. We also have a subcommittee focused in public information and outreach, where we really do outreach and amplify messages about response, resources, and information. And then we also have a resource and volunteer subcommittee. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody in there as I talk through it. So we've talked about preparedness, and then we have our response group, which really helps the community through those immediate periods of time after a disaster. And the unusual thing is that for COVID-19, it's been a very long disaster. For 18 months, we've been working through this emergency. So we continue to support the community in some of those areas. Some areas like the Emergency Financial Assistance Program has ended, but that has been since replaced with the Emergency ERAP program, Emergency Rental Assistance Program through Housing is Key. So I want to make sure that anyone who knows anyone who is in need of rental assistance knows that, particularly as we're looking at the moratorium on evictions ending, that program is available. And if you have any questions about it, I can share that information at the end of the presentation. So we've talked about preparedness, response, and then we also have a long-term recovery group that COAD oversees that is supporting people recovering from the 2020 wildfires in terms of rebuilding, trying to find new housing, and just overall recovery needs, which can be very substantial after 2 fires. So that is COAD. That's what we do. That's how we're involved in the community. We spend a lot of time communicating. We spend a lot of time coordinating. We are kind of the coordinator for all of the second responders, whereas the county focuses on first responders. We focus on second responders, those community-based organizations who help people at that next level. Let's see. So I think I've covered all of COAD. So we're going to, unless there's any questions about COAD, who we are and what we do. All right, I don't see any, and I don't see anything popping up in the chat.
So that's great. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so that's COAD. So let's move on. So today's presentation, we're going to talk about 5 essential steps to preparedness, and it's actually, there's little sub-steps in there as well. So we'll be talking about getting alerts so that you know and have the information about what to do. Making a plan, which means putting together a contact list and an evacuation plan so that you know how to get out of an area in a disaster. Packing a go bag, building a stay box. Those are 2 things where you make sure you have emergency supplies together, and then helping friends and neighbors get connected and get prepared. And we'll talk a little bit about our Map Your Neighborhood program when we cover that piece. So in terms of getting alerts, one of the most important things you can do is sign up for Nixle. So I don't know if everyone can see this flyer, but this is one of our key flyers. It's co-branded with the county. So the county and I share responsibility for this flyer. And we talk about Nixle, and we talk about knowing your zone. And we'll talk more about knowing your zone. It used to be that when the county did evacuations, they would define streets and define triangles and all kinds of things. And so your evacuation area was never consistent. And so with Zone Haven, we have the opportunity to create pre-established evacuation zones. So you don't have to be navigating, am I on the west side of that street or the north side of this street? All you have to know is your zone. And if you receive a Nixle that says this zone is to be evacuated, then you know that you're in that zone and you are to evacuate. So we'll talk more about evacuations a little bit later, and knowing your zone, which is very important. So it's pretty simple to get a Nixle alert. And when they do, when Rosa Maria does the Spanish version, there's also a way to link to the Spanish text for Nixles. So it's just you text your zip code. And for example, my zip code is 94558 to 888-777, and that gets you signed up for Nixles. So that is the primary method that the county uses to communicate with you about evacuations, about things that are happening during a disaster. During a disaster, sometimes if we lose connectivity or our cell phones lose power or whatever, the other places to look for information is the radio. And so KVON, which is the local sports radio and talk, 1440 AM. And then for anyone who's bilingual, KBBF provides a lot of incredible information as well at 89.1 FM. And then Calistoga Emergency Station, only active during emergencies, but the Calistoga Fire Department does man that during disasters. A couple of other places to get information is COAD's Facebook page. We don't post things on our website, and it's very difficult to get emails out during the middle of a disaster, so we will post things on Facebook. So you can like us and follow us on Facebook, and we will keep the most current information and notices about a disaster on our Facebook page. And the county does that as well through Facebook and Twitter. So we try to share that information with you as well. But the first thing you need to do to make sure your household is informed is to get those real-time alerts through Nixle. So, and I don't know, I always kind of forget how to do this, but I need to share the sound, and I have to remember how to do that. Okay. Because it's always helpful to share the high-low siren, but I think I need to, oh, it's part of share the screen. I share the sound. There, I found it. All right, so hopefully you'll all be able to hear this, because one of the things that happens when an area is going to be evacuated is the sheriff's department comes through and does the high-low siren. And that is what that sounds like.
Not hearing it.
Not hearing it? Okay, maybe I need to increase the sound. I did share the sound, so hold on. Oh, it went away. All right, let's try it one more time. Are you hearing it now?
Yes.
So that's what the high-low siren sounds like. And when you hear that sound, that means you need to get busy and get out. So we'll talk more about how to prepare for that. So again, this flyer is available in English and Spanish for anyone who's interested in getting a copy of it after the presentation today. All right, so there's also some other sources. I just wanted to highlight that Nixle is still the most important thing in Napa County. This is the Napa County Public Information Line. I would encourage you to take that number down. It's a place that you can call to get information, not exactly during an emergency, but one of the things that a lot of other counties rely on is 211. Sonoma County and Marin County use 211. Napa County does not staff a 211 phone number. We staff the public information line. So that's why that public information line is so important. So we covered most of the highlights on this page. I just wanted to share this as well. All right, so one of the first things about making a plan as you prepare for a disaster is to make sure that you have a list of contacts. So your emergency contacts may include family members, neighbors, and also you want somebody who's out of town, because sometimes local phone connections don't work, but you can text with somebody up in Washington or text with somebody in another country, in Canada or Mexico. So we always encourage that as you put together your emergency contact list, that, but this is particularly important if you don't, your phone and you can't get to your phone, or your phone loses power, and it's nice to have that list of phone numbers. And I would encourage you to put this list of phone numbers in your children's backpack, so that if an emergency happens, that emergency information is there. And so if your kid's at school and you're like, in San Jose for a business meeting or something, that, that third party can help connect you, or if somebody knows. And if you definitely have medical issues, I would encourage you in your emergency contacts to include your physician or primary healthcare provider. So connecting is really important, and it's important to have this information in your go bag, and we'll talk more about go bags in a minute, so that if your phone's a problem, you lose your phone, you leave your phone, it runs out of power, you have those phone numbers. Because I cannot remember a single phone number that's in my phone. So it's just really, that's a very important thing to do. So we encourage you to go low tech on this and make sure you have it in your go bag. Some people have laminated it. You don't need to go that far, but it's great to have it in writing and to make sure that it's also in your children's or any other household members. They also have it so that everybody has a copy and knows who that third party to connect with. Because if you can't connect with someone directly and that third party can say, everyone's good, that's important. So any questions about the contact list before we move on to evacuation stuff? Yes, all the flyers that we present in here, we will share with you after today's presentation, so you can share them out as follow-up to this meeting. All right, so making an evacuation plan is also really important. And so you need to identify how to get out of your own neighborhood. And sometimes, again, that may mean low tech. If your phone's not working and you can't navigate, you want to know how to safely get out of your neighborhood. You also want to know where to safely meet within your neighborhood and also outside of your neighborhood. And anytime there's an evacuation, please do always listen to local authorities. The sheriff's department, they'll go around the high-low siren, and they will assist you in understanding what's happening. And they will also, they want us all to be as self-reliant as possible when it comes to evacuation. But our sheriff's department does a great job of providing a safety net for people who can't get out. If someone is having difficulty or they have mobility issues and they can't, and the person who normally assists them and helps them evacuate isn't there to assist that person, the sheriff's department will come and assist. And I know during the fires last year, there were some large complexes, mobile home parks and some apartment complexes where not everyone had transportation, so NVTA vans were sent up to assist in evacuating people. So knowing how to get out of your neighborhood and then setting up those, just as we have the contact list, it's really important to have a plan for if we're all separated, where do we meet? And in that, in some cases that may be a relative's house that's out of the area, or maybe you all meet at the evacuation center. So having some contingency plans about where you would want to meet would be really critical. We're going to talk more about evacuation as we get here. One of the things that I'm going to go back for a second, as you prepare for evacuations, is that you make sure that, like we have a red flag warning right now. So you want to make sure anytime there's a red flag warning that you gas up your car and you take it out of your garage, just in case there's a loss of power. You want to make sure that your car is easily accessible and not, locked in your garage with your garage door opener. And also that it's facing away so that you're not trying to back into some kind of other stream of traffic, but that you have good visibility and are able to leave your area very easily. So one of the critical things that's new in the county, and I alluded to this a little bit, is identifying your zone, knowing what your zone is, so that if you get a nixle or an alert from the county that says your zone is happening, and I am going to, when we finish this presentation, I'm going to go to the Zone Haven website with you, and we will look up some zones. So if anyone's interested and willing, I did already look up where the CRC zone. So let me see. So, where I'm located is down here. This is Napa, but you can see the whole county has it. So there's, whoops, we went too far. So knowing your zone, there's a postcard that should be coming out from the county where it tells you how to look up your zone and to write it down and to put that on your refrigerator. So as I said, at the end of the presentation today, I will walk you through finding zones. All right. So what do you do in an evacuation? This is very important. And it's also important to know, but understand the language. And the language has changed in the last couple of years. Evacuation during a fire emergency. Right now, CAL FIRE uses only two terms for evacuations: evacuation warning and evacuation order. And before, they used to use evacuation advisory. So people get confused because there's a lot of different terms that have been used. But when it comes to fire, the only two words you need to know are evacuation warning versus evacuation order. And a warning means there's a potential threat to life and or property. And if your personal circumstances require it and you need more time to evacuate, this is the time to leave. And you should always leave if you feel unsafe. And the sheriff's department talks about people saying, an ember hit my fence and my fence is on fire, but I haven't been told to evacuate yet. It's like, no, evacuate anytime you see any fire coming close to you. An evacuation order means that there is an immediate threat to life and that you should leave now. And the area then becomes lawfully closed. So the way evacuations work in a fire situation is CAL FIRE and County Fire Department determine when and where evacuations will occur. And then the Sheriff's Department then enforces that evacuation order, and they make sure everyone has left the area. So it's so people get confused because the County Emergency Operations Center doesn't actually do the evacuation orders. They communicate them. CAL FIRE determines them, and the Sheriff's Department enforces them. So those are very distinct roles in terms of evacuations. So in preparing for an evacuation or before you get an evacuation warning, it's like during a red flag warning, you want to make sure your go bag and your grab list are ready. And we'll talk more about the grab list in a minute, that you know your evacuation route. And again, red flag warnings are a great time to practice, that you know your zone, that you've looked up your zone and you know what the high-low siren sounds like. Then when you get an evacuation order, you need to make sure that go bag's in your car is positioned and ready to go, your electronics are charged and you're getting your alerts. You've prepared your home by unplugging things so that they don't, that will, particularly if there's surges in power. And again, that you've checked your zone. And then when there's an order, it means leave now and follow the instruction of first responders and know how to use your evacuation routes. And there's the phone number for the Sheriff's Public Information line if you have questions. So, and then staying informed, again, we can't emphasize enough how important it is to maintain and make sure that you're getting continuous information. So that's either through Nixle or through the radio very often. So that's all about evacuations. Any questions about evacuations? Because that was a lot of information. And as I said, I'm going to take you on a little tour of Zone Haven so that you know what that looks like and how to find your zone.
That looks amazing. I really appreciate the visual and all the work that's gone into that flyer. Thank you for that.
And we will send you, but they'll send you the digital copies of this. So that will really help. All right, so then we have packing a go bag. And packing a go bag is really important. There's lots of different things that people can put in their go bags, but some of the most critical things you can put in your go bag, again, is that contact list. That's what we talk about here, which is from the Disaster Ready Guide. Your medication list. Very often when people are evacuated, they forget their medications. And those are things that you can't keep in your go bag, but you would want to put in a grab list. But sometimes you don't always have that opportunity to put them in a grab list. So if you have your medication list and you get to a shelter or you get somewhere that you've gone to evacuate, then you can say, oh, I need to get these prescriptions refilled. Okay, and they will help you do that at the evacuation center. The county evacuation center will assist with that. Again, going low tech and having a local map is very helpful if your electronics aren't working. It's important to have a little bit of cash on hand, and I know this is hard for a lot of folks, but just have like 5 ones or whatever, because a lot of times the point of payment isn't working, and so it's helpful to have cash. You also definitely want to have on any of your identification cards or legal documents, insurance documents. So if you can have copies of all of that information in your go bag, that's the essential stuff. And then there's a lot of other things that people like to put in their go bag, like family photos, and water, additional clothes, shampoo, other kind of. And for your children, you definitely want things like bottles and diapers and their critical snuggly stuff. But these are the absolute essentials. And I can show you another. We have a much more detailed go bag list that to remind people about some of the more personal essentials they might want to include in a go bag. But this really focuses on the things that are critical for you, keeping continuity of your life. Those medications, ID cards, and all of that, because it's very different. I mean, they're at the local assistance center after a disaster. They do have a special section just for replacing lost documents. But if you make sure you have copies of those documents in your go bag, you're way ahead of the game. All right, so anything else on packing a go bag? So I promised to talk a little bit about the grab list. So you can't, you can keep copies of things and a little bit of cash in your go bag, but you can't keep your medications in there. You can't keep your phone in there or your chargers in there. So it's always helpful with your go bag to have a little grab list that you pull out, when you get that evacuation warning, and say, okay, I need to get my medications, my extra glasses, my charger, and just have that short list of grab items that when you get a warning, you want to make sure you dump back into your go bag. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
I can't see everybody, so it's hard.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat, so I think
Okay.
Soaking it up.
So another place to keep stuff, and you can kind of combine your stay box and your go bag, but the go bag is when you've got to leave. And some people already, they do things like their go bag is actually, a plastic container and that they just shove in their car. And that's absolutely appropriate. So your go bag and your stay box can kind of be the same thing, though people usually have a little bit more in their stay box. Stay box is, particularly important during PSPS events, as well as sometimes earthquakes. When you're kind of stuck at home and you can't get anywhere. So in that case, you would definitely want to have, the water. And I know in our garage, we've got some big jugs of water that are part of our stay box. Some food that won't spoil, so granola bars or some other cans of things. This is where that crank radio becomes really important. And for evacuations, a lot of people can use their car radio, but the crank radio is really helpful because you can wind it up and that'll power it. And a lot of the new crank radios have little solar panels on top, so you can leave it in the sun and it will also charge the crank radio that way. And the new crank radios also have flashlights built into them, as well as places to charge your phone. So we encourage people to look into those. That's one of the things that I'm working to try to get more of to share at various events. Let's see, and then having some emergency supplies. I've related to first aid, particularly in your stay box. That's really important. Items for your children and infants, pet supplies, your flashlight, particularly if your crank radio doesn't have it, some blankets and sleeping bags to keep you warm. Definitely, when it comes to fire situations, having a mask is really important, as well as during COVID. So we want to have masks and personal equipment. Some toiletries, if you have stuff that you really like and feminine products, they're also important to include in your stay box. And again, some of these things may be things you want to include in your go bag. Trash bags. And, that sounds really terrible, but if you are without water for a prolonged period of time, having a trash bag that you can put into a bucket can serve as a portable toilet, as it were. And then again, those copies of those critical documents. So there's a lot of overlap between your go bag and your stay box. And a lot of people just have a stay box and shove it in their car, back of their car when they're ready to go. So both things are very appropriate. But the stay box is, for when you're stuck at home and you can't get out and you need to have resources for a few days until emergency services can make it. So that is the stay box. I think now we're getting on to step 5. So step 5 is helping friends and neighbors get prepared. And we have a program called Map Your Neighborhood, which is an all hazards approach. And it really focuses on building relationships in your neighborhood so that you can help each other prepare. And the way Map Your Neighborhood works is you really try to come together as a neighborhood and kind of map your neighborhood out, figure out where are the resources, who knows first aid, who's really good at helping people get out of the evacuation, who knows how to turn the gas off if you need to turn the gas off because of an earthquake, and then the vulnerabilities. I have a neighbor just down the street. They're in their 80s. They have no internet in their house. They do have a cell phone, and I encourage them to sign up for Nixle, but they can't look up their zone. There's a lot of things they can't do. So making sure that helping those people who are less digitally connected stay connected to information is really important. So, and that's what Map Your Neighborhood is all about, taking time to work together and understand the needs within the neighborhood and the resources within the neighborhood, the things that people are good at doing and know how to do. So the Map Your Neighborhood program is something we just started launching in July, and it's very exciting. We have quite a few neighborhoods engaged already. We offer a class, kind of an introductory class, and then we support ongoing neighborhood groups through a group called the Leaders Council. And we have about 15 to 20 people who come in and out of our Leaders Councils right now. That have organized their neighborhood. And the Leader Council is a place for neighborhood leaders or neighborhood members to come together and say, you know what, we haven't been able to get this organized, or, how have you handled this? We have some neighbors who are not interested. What do we do about that? I was speaking with some people up in Angwin today, and they were saying, we have people who, we talk about defensible space in some of those rural areas around the home so that your home is better protected from fire. But they were talking about the need to take an approach of, we need neighborhood defensible space to make sure that we're all engaged in it. So there's so many things that a neighborhood can come together and help address. So we really want to encourage people, and I can send you information on our next introductory class as well as our Leader Council meeting as a follow-up to today's presentation. So any questions about Map Your Neighborhood or neighborhood organizing? We're good. Okay. So another flyer that we have is, we call it making the preparedness plan, and it's kind of a checklist to make sure you've covered all of the 5 steps. And so that this is available also on our website. We have a preparedness calendar, and I might show you that after I show you the Zone Haven stuff. But we have a calendar, and it kind of identifies themes by month based on the hazards that we experience here in Napa County. And unfortunately, we've experienced way too many hazards. COAD actually came about because as a response to the 2014 earthquake and the 2015 fire up in Lake County, where it wasn't very, the response wasn't very organized, and there was a lot of people tripping over each other trying to help the community. And so somebody from another county came and said, hey, what you guys need is a COAD. You need a community organizations active in disaster that coordinates and collaborates and communicates and makes sure that everyone's on the same page, that you're not duplicating services, and that you're getting services to the people who need them. And so that is part of how COAD came about in Napa County. And now we have a very well-developed COAD, and we find other counties are coming to us for support in how they can begin to develop a preparedness program and response programs, as well as long-term recovery. So this flyer, again, is one I can send to you, but it talks about the preparedness steps, how to protect yourself, taking one step at a time, the checklist. So make a contact list. What are the important things to do about your contact list? Getting alerts, how to get alerts. That crank radio is in there, Nixle's in there. Having an evacuation plan, so knowing your zone and knowing where to find additional information, packing a go bag and a grab list, and it kind of identifies all those things, building a stay box, and then helping your neighbors. So it's a kind of the wrap up checklist that can help you figure out your preparedness plan. And so many, you all are childcare providers, and so you have probably even broader needs that need to be addressed in terms of preparedness for your facility. So I think that wraps up the main part of the presentation. And then I am going to, I think, stop sharing. And then I will reshare and show you Zone Haven. And then I might show you our COAD website as well, so you can see some of the things there. So this is Zone Haven. The way you get here is, let me see if you can see, you type in communityzonehaven.com. So just that bit there, and then it takes you to Zone Haven. And then you put in your address here. So I put in the address for CRC right here. And then it provided me with the zone. And the zone is the little red mark there. And it tells me that the zone for CRC is NAP-E020. And it gives me a current status. Now, this doesn't notify you to evacuate, but it does give you evacuation status information. You can only get the notifications through Nixle currently. So it says there's no current knowledge of an active public safety incident. The zone was located where the zone is located. And then it would, if things were being evacuated, it would also tell you where the evacuation centers are. So does anyone interested in putting in another address to see where their zone is? Or I think, you know, that slide, and we can definitely provide you copies of the slides as well from today, so that you can look up. It's again, Community Zone Haven. Show you one more time. Community.zonehaven.com. So Zone Haven doesn't replace the current county system of identifying the boundaries, but it's an additional information point so that people who know their zone will have a head start. Because if you know your zone, you're not going to have to think about, oh, do I fit into those street boundaries? You'll just know your zone. But they will still continue to share this street boundaries for evacuations, because not everyone knows their zone yet, and so there is going to have to be a long period of time for overlap. But it's great to hear that a lot of you already know your zone.
All right, we've got someone in the chat saying they found their zone.
Yay.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So yeah, so I'm going to stop sharing this and then just talk for a minute, and then I'm going to go in and get
I have someone asking about American Canyon. Is American Canyon showing on there? Because that is part of Napa County.
yes, it is. American Canyon is on there. It just didn't show up. All right. Sorry, I'm coming back. Yes. Should I bring that up again? Hold on, let me see if I can. Oops, I lost it. All right. I'll show you again, but right now I'm going to show you the website. This is Napa Valley COAD's website, and this is our preparedness calendar page. There's how to help. It covers volunteers, about us, covers a lot more information, our general meetings, resources. We had a very large set of resources regarding fire and COVID resources, our disaster operations, and then the last page is our preparedness calendar. And you can see the preparedness calendar, there's in English and in Spanish. And so it's organized by purple is kind of general preparedness information. Green is earthquake preparedness. Blue is winter storm preparedness. So that's kind of early in the year. And then as we move into, we also have, starting in April, we do a lot of our access and functional needs preparedness. And then we have, as we get into May, there's Wildfire Awareness Week, and that kind of kicks off our communication campaign around wildfires. So each month we focus on social media. In June we talked about go bags and grab lists. Right now we're doing red flag warning again. We do that in September. We do that in June because that's when we typically get our first PSPS and red flag warning. And then we also do them in August. And then September is National Preparedness Month. So on social media, we're sharing the steps of getting prepared so that everyone has that information. And then in October, we'll be sharing more information about the Great Shakeout. But if we go to, let's see, we go to this wildfire awareness. This page here provides you with English and Spanish, and provides a lot of, here's all of our flyers are here in English and Spanish, some videos that provide some additional information. And then we have other critical links and resources, and some PSPS resources as well that PG&E provides, particularly to vulnerable individuals, and then information about Map Your Neighborhoods in here as well. So, and then there's a great video on don't burn down your house. So I would encourage you to visit our preparedness calendar to learn more about the resources that we have available.
Wow.
So
well thought out. Thank you. Amazing resources that you've compiled together for everyone. And I encourage the family child care providers as well to share these resources with your families. We will send a email to you listing all of this so that you could even forward that to your families as well and give them the links and so forth, for sure.
yeah, so here I'm going to share this one more time because I know we are almost out of our time here. And I'm going to, here's American Canyon down here. Can everyone see that? Okay, so American Canyon is down here, it's ACY. So here's Napa Junction and this area. Okay, so it does, it is a big map. Oh, all right, so now it's telling us some information about ACYE002. Here's the Napa Sonoma Marshlands Wildlife Area. So, all right. So I hope I've provided you all with some good resource information. And again, I will send follow-up materials to Linda.
Wow, thank you so much for all of this wonderful detail. Does anyone have any questions for our wonderful COAD. This is phenomenal what they've put together. Wow, what everyone's done. Any other questions?
So maybe I should put in the chat how to get to our stuff.
Yes, please do that. And then we'll also send that out in a follow-up email.
Mm-hmm. And that will get you to our website, and then just go to the preparedness calendar, and that's where you can get a lot more information.
I really am interested in this map your neighbors, map the neighbors concept of being connected to your neighbors. You're saying that that's one of the best ways for communities to come together to support one another. And I just think that's just genius. I'm definitely going to start that in my neighborhood.
And so I would encourage you to come to one of our classes. The next class is October 28th. So I'll just put you on the list.
Do you do Zooms or are these in person?
Yes, it is all in Zoom.
Figure. Yeah.
I'll send you the information on the next class because it is helpful, because we have all of the materials in English and Spanish as well. Excellent. So, and our person who runs the classes is very good at helping people navigate running a successful neighborhood meeting. And one of the things that we've discovered that people, oh yes, definitely. So yeah, if you can send me all the people who came today, and I'll send them the information on the Map Your Neighborhood program.
Sure.
But one of the things that Skip is so good about doing is he really helps people understand that the way you build neighborhood relationships is to build the relationships first before you ask for a lot of personal information. And I think a lot of the times when I go to these meetings, it's like, the first thing is sign in and give us all your personal information. And people are like, well, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know you guys yet. And I'm not sure I want to give you that information yet. So he really teaches you how to, coaches you around navigating around that and building the trust first so that it's more effective. Mm-hmm. So he is great.
Great. All right. Well, then.
All right. So I will make sure each of you who attended today, and I'll rely on Lindy to get me your email addresses. I'll make sure that you get the invite to the next class. And as I said, we do the classes. The next class is October 28th. And then the classes are followed up by people can just, pop into the Leader Council meetings, which are also currently on Zoom, and get that additional support and stay connected, because it's, while we want you connected in your neighborhood, it's helpful to be connected with others and to find out what they're doing, what challenges they're having, or what successes they're having. So.
Yeah, you never know who's going to wind up coming to your aid. So it's good to be part of that, right? It goes both ways.
Yeah, and we've had people come to the Leader Council meetings. It's like, oh, well, my neighborhood's just like 5 blocks from your neighborhood. So let's maybe have a, get more connected. So
excellent. Excellent. Great. Well, thank you. All right. I'm going to stop